Donald Trump was on Joe Rogan's podcast. Here's why that's really important.
I always got more publicity than other people, and it wasn't like I was trying.
Hey guys, Mike here. Welcome back to my channel. Hit the subscribe button for more pop culture content. Let's get into it. Okay, so unless you're living under a rock right now, you will know that we are in peak US election period. Seriously, even in Australia, we probably care more about this than our own politics. And in this video, I don't want to talk much about the positioning of both sides of the election, whether you're a Trump fan or a Harris fan. It's irrelevant to what I'm talking about on this video, because I want to skew more into the popular culture sphere and how podcasts have essentially completely decimated mainstream media. And Donald Trump's appearance on the Joe Rogan podcast absolutely cements this reality.
And the people coming from space,
Yes.
And I know you're interested in that.
Oh, very interested in that.
In fact, just a few weeks earlier, Trump was on Theo Von's podcast.
This is not unique. This is a very common story, unfortunately, but
which has now also seen JD Vance on. And I'm pretty sure just a couple weeks ago as well, Kamala Harris appeared on Alex Cooper's enormously popular podcast, Call Her Daddy.
So he who, when he was president, hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade.
Now, I think this is a huge shift that literal presidential candidates are going on long-form podcasts in order to hopefully score some votes.
Quimby, if you were running for mayor, he'd vote for you. Paid for by the mayor, Quimby for mayor, mayoral committee.
And as much as it pains me personally to say this, I'm pretty sure Donald Trump might have the election in the bag based on his appearance on Joe Rogan. Rogan's podcast is not only the most popular podcast on planet Earth, but we also have to look into the kind of social power that appearing on a podcast like that has. Because pretty much everyone trying to sell anything wants to go on Joe Rogan. Like, that is the whole premise of publicity and PR, to get someone's audience and expose yourself to them. And Joe Rogan has such an enormous audience of predominantly men, and I'm sure Trump thinks it's a great idea to go on that podcast, have a 3-hour conversation with Joe Rogan, which will ideally humanize him and help him score votes in the upcoming election. And I could say the same thing for Kamala Harris. Like, we really can't understate the power of podcasts and podcasters. Call Her Daddy, Alex Cooper's pod, is a Spotify exclusive podcast. It has a $1 million or $1 billion deal, as does Joe Rogan, and also has, again, a loyal, dedicated, and devoted captive audience, predominantly in the, younger skewing female demographic. So Kamala going on that podcast trying to incentivize those listeners to vote for her is a great way to get her message across to the people she can reach. And I think this is especially true in a country like America, where it is not compulsory to vote. Here in Australia, you do have to vote. Like, you literally have to go and vote, but everyone thinks it's okay because we have sausage sizzles and you buy like a sausage. I'm not joking, by the way. But to be able to reach these loyal and devoted audiences, and to be able to humanize yourself in this way, in a way that traditional news media might not offer. Plus, there's also the fact that a lot of young people just simply aren't on traditional news media anymore. Like, young people, Gen Zs, I'm a millennial, but Gen Zs, like, they're not watching free-to-air TV. They're not listening to radio. They're not engaging with traditional media. So podcasts are such a valuable avenue for people like Trump and Harris to get their word across. I was actually interviewed on radio here in Australia about this very thing and talked all about how podcasting has become so powerful. Here's an excerpt.
546 million podcast listeners worldwide. Why is it so popular as a format?
Well, a lot of people, Tony, say that podcasts are the AM radio for millennials. And I think that is it. It's company, it's time investment. And I think people just want to feel like they have someone there with them to listen to.
But at the end of the day, it's abundantly clear to me that things are really shifting. There is more value for someone like Donald Trump to go and speak to Joe Rogan and just have a conversation with him than doing any other traditional form of press. And to be honest, it kind of is humanizing of Trump. I listened to the full 3 hours and he just kind of finds middle ground with Joe Rogan on like his love of fighting and UFC and a bunch of other stuff, and then just kind of loosely talks talks about some of the stuff he would do if he was president.
You know what it is? I want to be a whale psychiatrist. It drives the whales frickin' crazy.
Plus, the fact that Rogan is clearly interested in what Trump has to say and is really allowing him the space to speak and be human must be so appealing for Trump and his team, because if Joe likes Trump, his listeners will also love Trump.
You are a fascinating guy, and you've done a great job.
Thank you
I'm
very
a big
much.
fan, and thank you very much. It's been an honor.
Plus, breaking down that traditional question-answer kind of thing where a journalist poses a question to a politician and then they give an answer, and turning it into what Rogan does best, which is just having a genuine, honest conversation. Like, you can say what you want about Joe Rogan, but his appeal is really clear. He just has genuine, open conversations with people about stuff he wants to know about. I think there's also a big risk factor about going on a podcast like this. They're often unfiltered, unedited. They go for 3 hours. Anything can kind of be said.
Elon did that. By the way, Elon is great. That guy is such a great guy. I think you're a fan of
love
Elon.
him.
He is from a different planet. He's the greatest guy.
To take that plunge, I think, is really brave of Donald Trump. And Rogan has asserted that he wants Kamala Harris to come on as well. And I think it would be a really bad idea for her not to go on at this stage. In fact, I think if she came on after listening to Trump's and came back sort of countering some of the things he says about her, she could have a really good chance with that audience. But the one thing I've taken from all of this is that the old school media is done, and it's more about people than networks now, and I think that's really exciting. Whew, thank you so much for watching, guys. Hey, comment below, what did you think of Trump's appearance on Joe Rogan? Do you think Kamala Harris should go on? And what do you think of politicians going on podcasts more generally? Let me know down in the comments, and hit the subscribe button for more pop culture content like this. Hey, if you like my content, I'm all over the internet doing dumb stuff that I think is cool. All the links are down in the bio. I have a blog where I write about being a millennial, mental health, anxiety, and pop culture, and how they all intersect. I also have a Harry Potter fan fiction podcast where I read Harry Potter fan fiction that I wrote when I was 13. I just do so much crazy dumb stuff, so go and check it out. But that's pretty much it from me. My name's Radio Mike. This has been The Inside of My Mind, and I'll catch you later.